close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath. Imagine that you're standing at the edge of a thick forest. The trees creak gently in the wind. The year is 1692, and you are in Massachusetts, in a small, tightly knit village known simply as Salem. But this is not the Salem of streetlights or shops or cozy cafes. This is the Salem of black hats, wooden houses, dirt paths, and deeply religious people. Salem Village is quiet. It is cold. It is isolated. And it is afraid. Your name is not remembered by history, but for this story that doesn't matter. Maybe you are a young woman who helps on her father's farm. Maybe you are a widow with a small garden of herbs and a quiet dog. Or perhaps you are a man who works with wood, who doesn't speak much, and prefers the forest to the church. You are just you, and your story is about to begin. A cold, uneasy morning. The sun hasn't yet risen. The sky is still a thick, wintry blue. The snow crunches under your feet as you walk toward the well, your breath hanging in the air. The village is mostly still. Only the church bell will break this silence, as it does every morning, calling everyone to prayer. In Salem, prayer is not just important, it is survival. Your neighbors believe the devil walks among them. Too many here. Every misfortune, every dying cow, every spoiled crop, every cold that turns into fever is not a matter of luck or illness. It is evil disguised. There are whispers lately, soft ones, about two girls, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, the minister's daughter and niece. They've been behaving strangely, screaming, falling into fits, saying names of people they say have bewitched them, names of neighbors, your neighbors. You've heard these rumors before. Witches, curses, the devil's mark. But this feels different. This time, they're not just stories. This time, someone has been accused. You shiver. Not from the cold, but from something else, something older, heavier, more invisible. Life in Salem, your home, is small. A wooden cabin, drafty in winter and sweltering in the summer. A fireplace heats the single room, and smoke lingers low in the air. You have a small bed, some woolen blankets, and perhaps a Bible on a narrow table. You rise with the sun and sleep when it disappears. You work hard, growing food, tending animals, sewing, chopping wood, cooking over open flame. You do not complain. No one does. Complaining would suggest dissatisfaction, and dissatisfaction might be sinful. You go to church twice a week. You are expected to listen, to fear God, and to obey. Your minister speaks of fire, of damnation, of purity. The devil is not abstract. He is real. He can take many forms. He can enter your mind. He can live in your heart. And if someone opens the door to him, if someone sins, even in silence, it is believed that he will walk through them and into the village. You try not to sin. You try to stay pure. But what does pure mean? Exactly. If you have a dream you cannot explain, if you own a cat that stares too long at shadows, if you are a woman who doesn't cry when her husband dies, if you heal someone with herbs instead of prayer, could that be enough? A stranger. Among friends, the people of Salem live close together, but not always in peace. Disputes over land are common. There is jealousy, suspicion, gossip. Your neighbor may smile at you in church and accuse you in court the next day. You remember when Goody Osborne stopped speaking to Goody Putnam. No one remembers why. Or when John Proctor raised his voice during a sermon. Now people say he keeps strange books. A child got sick after drinking milk from Goody Good's cow. Was the milk bad, or was it bewitched? Everyone is watching. Everyone is guessing. And everyone is afraid of being next. You keep your head down. You do not raise your voice. You do not look too long at anyone. You pray before every meal. You nod in silence when someone tells you what the Bible says, but you wonder, is it enough? The circle of accusation, the circle is growing. The girls have named more people. Older women, midwives, outspoken widows, poor women who live alone. One girl claims a ghost came to her in a dream, pointing at someone in the church pew. Spectral evidence, dreams, visions, feelings is accepted in court. People who confess to witchcraft are often spared, but only if they name someone else. The message is clear. Confess and betray, and you may live. Stay silent, and you may die. You think of this as you grind corn into meal, as you knead dough, as you feed chickens in the frost. You look at your hands, dry, cracked, honest, and wonder if someone might say those hands worked with the devil. And if they did, who would defend you of hell? He says the devil is walking in Salem. He says the girls have been chosen by God to expose the evil that has taken root. Some say they shake and scream during sermons. Others say they speak in tongues. Some say it is theater, but no one dares to call it a lie. To question the accusers is to draw attention to yourself, and attention is dangerous. So you sit silent, listening to the fire crackle, your breath tight in your chest. You don't cough, you don't yawn, you don't move too quickly or too slowly. You are trying not to exist. The arrival of Fire. New name is spoken, not yours, not yet, but someone close to you, a friend, a cousin, a woman who once helped your mother during childbirth. She is kind, she makes candles, she has always been good to you. But someone said, she muttered to herself, in the woods. Someone said her eyes looked strange when the minister spoke of devils. One girl said she dreamed of her Dot, and that was enough. She is taken from her home. Her hands are tied. Her shoes are muddy. She is silent as she is led away. Scream. You want to say something, but your feet are frozen to the ground. You say nothing, and that too feels like a sin. Twilight over the village. The sun sets slowly over Salem. The houses are quiet. The air is heavy. The villagers retreat into their homes and bolt their doors, but the fear remains. Outside, the snow begins to fall again, soft. Slow flakes landing on the roofs, the trees, the graves. You sit by your fire, stirring soup that tastes like nothing. You listen to the wind and to the distant howl of wolves. You think about the woman taken today. You think about your neighbor's sideways glance. You think about the silence in church and the screaming that might come next. You try to sleep, but the shadows move strangely tonight, and somewhere, someone may be speaking your name. You wake before dawn. The sky is still wrapped in dark gray clouds, and the cold has settled deep into the corners of your home. Your fire went out hours ago. You rub your hands together slowly, trying to bring feeling back into your fingers. The quiet is heavy, thicker than usual. Something is wrong. You feel it before you hear it. A strange stillness in the air, as if the village is holding its breath. You dress without speaking. The fabric of your clothes is rough, worn from use, but familiar. You pull your shawl tight and step outside, and then you hear it. Footsteps in the snow. The knock it is not a knock. Exactly. It is harder than that. Louder, less polite, more final. 3, heavy, THUDS, then silence. When you open the door, there are two men standing there. One holds a paper, the other holds rope. Both wear long, dark coats and solemn expressions. The first man reads. His voice is firm, but tired. This is not his first visit today. He says your name. He says you've been named. That the girls, the ones afflicted, spoke it during a fit. They saw your spirit. They felt your presence. They say you shake your head. You say no. You say nothing of the sort has happened. You do not even speak to those girls. You do not dream strange dreams. You do not hurt anyone, but they are not here to hear your defense. They are here to bring you to court. Bound, the rope itches as they tie your wrists. Not tightly, not cruelly, but it is humiliating just the same. You feel like an animal, not for what you've done, but for what others believe you've done. Neighbors peek through windows. No one speaks. No one intervenes. A child watches from behind a tree. You remember giving that child bread last winter when her father was ill. Now she watches as if you're no longer someone she knows. As you are led through the village, you wonder what you could have done to deserve this. You recall a day, months ago, when a woman lost her child, and you said, quietly, that it might have been the fever. Someone heard you. Someone said you questioned God's will, or perhaps it was when you offered your neighbor a dried herb for her aching joints, one your mother taught you about long ago. She said it helped. Maybe someone saw. Maybe it was nothing at all. Maybe they simply needed a name. The jail, the building, is made of wood and stone, cold and damp. It smells of straw, sweat, and silence. Inside, you are met with other women and a few men, sitting in corners, wrapped in what blankets they have. Some weep, others pray. One stares into the dark, unmoving. A woman approaches you gently. She touches your arm. Her voice is hoarse, almost a whisper. What did they say you did? You shake your head. I don't know, you reply. She nods slowly. She understands. None of them truly know. They only know they were accused. They only know they are no longer trusted. The floor is hard. The wind creeps through cracks in the wall. Rats scratch in the corners. The night stretches long. Sleep is difficult, but dreams still come. The girls, you see them again, not in person, but in memory. Abigail, Betty Ann, Mercy. They are young, barely women. Their faces are pale and flushed at the same time. In court, they scream, they fall, they writhe, they point. They say they see spirits. They say they feel burning, biting, choking, and each time they name another soul. Why are they doing this? Some say they are possessed. Others say they are lying. Some believe they enjoy the attention. Others believe they are afraid, and that naming others is the only way to stay safe. Whatever the truth is, it is no longer about truth. It is about survival. And survival requires someone else to be guilty. The magistrate to days pass. Then you are called to stand before the magistrate. The room is packed. The air is stiff, filled with the murmurs of villagers, the scratch of quills, the distant sobbing of someone outside. You are brought forward. The magistrate does not smile. He asks your name. He asks if you know why you're here. He asks if you believe in God. You answer each question softly, carefully. Then he asks, have you made a pact with the devil? You hesitate. The question is absurd. It is terrifying. It is dangerous. You say no, but your voice trembles. And some in the crowd take that, trembling as guilt. The testimony: a girl is brought forward. She looks young. Her hair is tangled. Her eyes dart quickly. She is asked what she has seen. I saw her in my dream, the girl says. She came to me as a black dog. She bit my hand. You shake your head. That's not true, you whisper. But the magistrate continues. Another girl steps forward. She pinched me, the second girl says. Just now, while I was standing here, her spirit left her body and pinched me. You open your mouth to protest, but before you can speak, the girl screams and falls to the floor. The crowd gasps. The room explodes in sound. Do you deny what they say? The magistrate asks again. You do. You deny everything. But your denial means nothing. The weight of silence after the hearing, you are returned to your cell. You sit in the dark, replaying each moment. The girl's scream, the crowd's reaction, the magistrate's frown. The way your own voice seemed to vanish under the noise. You realize now that innocence is not enough. Your life depends not on what you've done, but on what people believe you might have done, on what they fear, and fear is louder than reason. The offer days pass. Then a man comes to see you. He is not a guard, not a minister, not a friend. He offers you a choice. If you confess, he says slowly, you may live. You will be spared the rope. You stare at him. But I didn't do anything, you say. He nods, as if he's heard that many times. You only need to say you did, and name another. Your stomach turns. Name another. Accuse someone else. Lie. Condemn someone you know too. Save yourself. It is a cruel mercy, but it is a way out. The question that lingers that night. You lie awake on the wooden floor, staring into darkness. The sounds of others sleeping, moaning, crying, praying, echo softly around you. Would you survive this? You've kept your faith. You've done no harm. You've followed the rules. You've tried to be kind, but in Salem, none of that matters. What matters is perception. What matters is who speaks loudest. What matters is fear. And so the question remains, the one that hovers over your every breath. Would you confess to something you didn't do if it meant staying alive? Or would you keep your silence and risk the noose? The wind has changed. You feel it the moment you wake, if you slept at all. Something is different today. A guard speaks your name. He doesn't look at you directly, only gestures. It's time. No explanation, no comfort. Fate begins to take shape. The walk, your hands are tied again. The rope scratches your wrists, now more bruised than before. As they walk you through the village square, people stare. A man you knew since childhood stands with folded arms. He does not meet your gaze. You pass the church. You pass the hanging tree. You try not to look up. The snow has melted slightly, revealing patches of mud and dead grass. The path to the meeting house is slick. You do not slip. You place each step carefully. You are learning to move like the condemned. The courtroom, the meeting house, is small and stark. wooden beams, narrow windows, a wide bench for the magistrates, a simple chair for the accused. You are placed in that chair. There is no jury, there are no lawyers, there is no protection, only witnesses and watchers. The courtroom fills with murmurs. The afflicted girls are here again. So is the minister. So are townspeople who barely know you, and a few who used to know you well. They sit on benches, waiting to hear whether you are what they fear, a servant of Satan, or simply the next scapegoat. The accusation. Repeated, the magistrate reads the charges. You are accused of practicing witchcraft, of tormenting the girls, of signing the devil's book, of sending your spirit out while your body slept. He asks again, do you deny these charges? You do, quietly, but your voice trembles. And in this room, trembling is dangerous. The performances begin as if on cue. The girls begin. One clutches her chest and gasps. Another screams. A third falls to the floor, writhing, shouting your name. She's biting me. One cries, she's here, in spirit. Another yells, she stands beside her own body. The room descends into chaos. You try to speak, but the magistrate waves his hand for silence, not for them, for you. A fourth girl holds up her arm, teeth marks. She did this just now. You look around. You are seated. Your hands are bound. You have moved nowhere, but logic has no seat in this room. Only fear does. The minister. Speaks the village minister. Reverend Paris stands. He warns the court that witchcraft is subtle, that the devil can wear the face of innocence, that the accused may not even know they are possessed. That denial does not equal purity. He says the afflicted girls are blessed. Darkness. He says you may be one of the wolves in sheep's clothing. He looks directly at you. You do not. Return his gaze. You speak finally. You are allowed to respond. You stand slowly. Your voice is low, dry. You say you have never hurt a soul. You say you have never met the devil. You say you are a Christian. You pray every day. You go to church. You do not understand why this is happening. You say the girls are lying. The room goes still. That word lying seems to hang in the air like smoke. One of the girls shrieks again, and someone in the crowd gasps. Spectral evidence. The magistrate leans forward. You say the girls lie, but we have seen them afflicted. What do you say to their suffering? You pause. What can you say? That they want attention, that they're caught in something they cannot stop. You almost laugh, but it sticks in your throat. Dreams, feelings, shadows. This is what they call spectral evidence. Invisible crimes, proven only by visions. It's not evidence at all, but in Salem, it's enough. The turning point. A woman stands to testify. You recognize her, a neighbor, not close, but familiar. You once helped her when her firewood ran out in winter. She wept and thanked you. Now she says she once saw you speaking with a black bird in your garden. Another man says he found a poppet, a small doll, buried behind your home. A sign, he says, of folk magic. You've never seen such a thing, but that doesn't matter now. The crowd stirs. The magistrate listens. You feel the tide turning, like a small boat drifting farther from shore. Your chances grow smaller. The confession question. Again you are asked once more. Will you confess? The choice now is clearer. If you confess, the execution may be delayed. You may live for now. You may even be spared entirely if you are helpful. But to confess, you must give names, accuse others, confirm their fears, add fuel to the fire. If you refuse, the gallows await. You shake your head. You say you are innocent. The magistrate sighs, the crowd nods. But by your refusal to lie, the sentence does not happen immediately. You are returned to your cell, left in silence, left to think. But days later, the sentence arrives. You are to hang. You are told the date. You are told to prepare. You do not cry. You do not scream. You simply sit and listen to the wind. The waiting is worse than anything. Each day you hear rumors that more have been accused, that someone else confessed and named you again, that someone saw you in their dream, that another gallows is being built. You wonder if anyone believes you. You wonder if anyone will speak for you. You wonder what they will say after you're gone. Will they say, "She was strange. She kept to herself. She walked in the woods too often. She never remarried. She looked at people too long. She didn't look at them enough." A flicker of hope one morning. A visitor comes. A minister not from Salem, but from Boston. He's heard of the trials. He says he has doubts. He says God is just, that justice requires proof, not panic. He prays with you. He does not promise salvation. He does not promise pardon, but he says, a drink of water. You are allowed to write, if you can write, or to speak your final words to the jailer. You look around your small cell, and then up, through the narrow cracks in the wood, at the stars above. You are not afraid. You are tired. You think of your mother's hands. You think of spring. You think of silence. And for the first time in weeks, you sleep. Morning breaks slowly. The sky is gray, but not stormy. Clouds drift like slow ships across a pale canvas. You wake not to a gallows, not yet, but to footsteps. At first, then, he unlocks the door. You rise slowly. He doesn't bind your wrists. Instead, you made peace with it. Now you are left to wait again. The delays, the townspeople are restless. The executions have grown too numerous, too fast. Questions have begun to creep through the cracks. Small, unsettling doubts. A minister in Boston wrote a letter. A merchant refused to attend the hangings. Within Salem begin to wonder, what if we're wrong? Not loudly, not openly, but enough to delay the sentence. You are not free, but for now, you live. The gallows continued, despite the doubts. Others are not spared. You hear their names: Bridget, Rebecca, Sarah, Martha, John. Some confessed, some did not. Some believed their innocence would protect them. Some, like you, sat in silence. The gallows are not always visible from your cell, but you hear the footsteps as they leave. You hear the silence when they do not return. You hear the hammer. Days, but by deaths. The changing wind as summer fades. Something begins to shift. The court that condemned you, the court of Oyer and Terminer, is dissolved. Too many protests, too many inconsistencies, too many names spoken. A new court is formed. This one does not allow spectral evidence. This one asks for proof, real proof, and without the invisible, the visions, the dreams. The jail grows quieter. People begin to wonder aloud, what have we done? Letters and Regra too are told that the governor's wife was accused. That was the turning point. If even she could be suspected, then anyone could. The governor steps in. He begins releasing the accused. One by one, not all at once, not everyone, but the tide, at last, begins to turn. Ministers write letters. Some apologize. Now stands alone. He writes his own apology, but it is not enough, not for the ones who died, not for the ones who still sit in these cold stone walls. You are released one day. Your name is called again, but not for trial, not for execution. This time, you are led outside, not to the gallows, but to the gate. A thin man with spectacles hands you a paper. By order of the governor, he says, you are free. You stare at the road ahead. The village looks the same, but you do not. You step forward, no rope on your wrists. No shouts from the crowd, just the quiet sound of your feet against the earth, returning. Home, your home is smaller than you remember. Colder, you find dust where there was once warmth. Empty shelves, a broken chair, a garden overgrown, but it is yours. You light a fire. You sit in silence. You do not cry. Not yet. You are still trying to understand what it means to survive. Some greet you in the street, carefully, quietly. Some do not speak to you at all. The scars are invisible, but deep, and Salem is not yet healed. What comes after the trials officially end? Those still imprisoned are released. The general court declares a day of fasting. Small payments, the names of the condemned are slowly cleared, but not quickly, not easily, and not completely. Some names are forgotten, some reputations remain ruined, some wounds never close. It will take centuries for Salem to say the word witch without shame. Your name in the record's years pass. The village changes, children grow, ministers leave. The trees near the gallows rot and fall. You live quietly, you grow old, and in time, your story is reduced to lines in a book. Someone writes, she was accused, she did not confess, she was released. They do not write of your sleepless nights, of the rope burns on your wrists. They do not write of the fire that went out while you were away. But you remember, you always remember. Would you have survived? To say yes, it's easy to imagine calm words and brave silence. But survival in Salem was not about truth. It was about timing. It was about fear. It was about who believed you and who needed someone to blame. You survived because the tide turned just before it reached your neck. Not because you were stronger, not because you were luckier, but because history shifted at the last possible moment. The lesson that lingers was a village, but it could have been anywhere. The people were not monsters, they were afraid. That is the true terror, because it means it could happen again, not with witches, but with ideas, with beliefs, with people made into symbols, rather than seen as human. The lesson of Salem is not simply about fear of magic. It's about the danger of certainty, of silence, of the crowd. It is about how easy it is to listen to screams, and how hard it is to hear the truth beneath them. Final silence. You are an old woman now. You sit near your fire. You hold a piece of paper 1 cent years later, clearing. Your name, it is meant to be a comfort, but tanned, it does not warm your hands. Outside, a new winter begins. The wind whistles against your door, and in the quiet, you remember the sound of your own voice in that courtroom. Clear, unbelieved, but still yours. A whisper from the narrator, you're still here, after all of it. You walked through the shadow of accusation. You stood in the silent corners of a cold jail. You sat in the chair of judgment. You heard your name torn apart, rebuilt, and offered back to you like a question no one could answer. And yet, you are still here, not just as a character, not just as a name on a list, but as a witness, because that's what this was, a witnessing, not of witches, not of demons, but of people, fragile, afraid, human. Why tell this story? You might wonder why I told it this way, so slowly, so softly, so personally. It's because the Salem trials have too often been flattened into caricature, black hats, and broomsticks, spooky music, theatrical gasps. But this wasn't a tale of monsters. It was a tragedy of the ordinary. A teacher, a mother, a farmer, a child, all caught in a storm of belief and blame. So I wanted you to feel it, not just understand it. I wanted you to sit with the silence, to hear what it feels like to be unheard, to remember what fear can do to reason. And you, the reader, you were not passive. You made choices, even if only in your mind. You wondered whether to confess or stay silent. You questioned the witnesses. You doubted the court. You hoped for mercy. You may have thought, done differently, and maybe you would have, but maybe, just maybe, you felt the pull of fear, too. That quiet voice in your head asking, what would they think of me? What if I speak and no one listens? Now you understand. What remains unspoken? There are things I didn't say. I didn't describe the rope in detail. I didn't linger on the names of the dead. I didn't show every cell, every scream, not because they weren't real, but because silence sometimes speaks louder. Pain doesn't always cry out. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it's carved into the pauses between words, like grief, like shame, like survival. The truth about the ending. People often ask, did she survive? Was she freed? In this story, yes. In this telling, yes. But many didn't. And even those who lived never lived the same. The truth is, no one truly survives something like Salem, not without carrying something back. A scar, a silence, a deep and permanent knowing. One last thought: if history whispers to us, and I believe it does, then Salem is not just whispering, it's pleading. Be slow to judge. Be careful with fear. Hold space for doubt. Choose mercy. And above all, listen, because someone, somewhere, is still sitting in a silent room, waiting to be heard. Salem, 1692. You wake before the sun. The air smells of frost and ash. The kind of morning that doesn't begin, it settles, heavy, pale, silent. Your breath curls in the cold and drifts upward toward the beams of your cottage, where cobwebs tremble like threads of a forgotten spell. You do not cast spells. You do not whisper to the dark. You wake early. You split wood. You gather eggs from a chicken that has never known your name. You boil water with crushed mint to ease the cough that came. With the last rain dot you live, nothing more. But today, something has shifted. You feel it the moment your boots meet the dirt outside your door. The world is still, yes, but not quiet. There is a hum beneath it all, a tremor that doesn't come from the wind or the trees. Then you hear it, Footsteps, many, purposeful, not hurried, not clumsy. The kind of walking that only happens when someone already knows what they will say and to whom they come around the bend of the Hilthrymen. One older, with a beard grayed by years, not wisdom. One younger, holding a folded parchment in his hands as if it were a sword. The third, with a Puritan's hat so low on his head you cannot see his eyes. You do not run. There's nowhere to go in Salem, just trees and guilt. The parchment is read aloud, but you don't hear the words, not at first. Only fragments slip through, as if shouted through water. Testimony, unnatural practices, afflicted girl, witnesses named, then your name, spoken in full, slowly, with weight, as if the name itself was a sin. You are to stand before the magistrate, by order of the town of Salem, and the grace of Almighty God. You ask, without breathing, for what? The older man looks at you. His eyes are dry, too dry. Witchcraft. You want to laugh. You do not. That would not help you now. They do not bind your hands, not yet, but they watch you too closely for it to matter. The walk to the village is long and shorter than it should be. You pass fields where you once helped harvest, windows where you once shared bread. No one waves, no one speaks. Doors close like blinking eyes. You are already a ghost. When you arrive, they take you to the meeting house. Inside, the walls are lined with women in hoods, men with arms folded, children sitting like miniature judges. At the front, the magistrates cold as the wooden benches they command. One of them asks, "Do you know why you are here?" You could say no. You could say yes. You could say everything, but you say nothing. They take silence as confession. Of course they do. A girl is brought forward. You know her, Anne, the blacksmith's daughter. 13, maybe. She's trembling, or pretending to, or both. Her hand goes to her throat, as if choking on invisible hands. She saw you speak with the devil in the form of a crow, a man says. You stare, a crow. You remember the bird. It followed you once from the woods. You fed it crumbs once, in kindness, and then forgot it. But she didn't. She saw you draw symbols in the dirt. You remember the symbols. You drew them to teach letters to a boy, to pour for books. Your own letters. A makeshift alphabet. A lesson. She said you came to her in dreams, promising power. You remember no such dream, but dreams mean nothing here. Not anymore. They ask you to speak. You say, "These are lies." A woman screams. See how they lie like Satan himself, so calmly, so easily. The girl begins to sob. The room turns colder. A magistrate leans forward. Do you deny the devil's mark is upon you? You say, I deny the devil. I deny his mark. I deny these words. Another voice calls out. A man, you know him too. A neighbor, he says he saw strange lights near your home. Another says, your herbs smell foul, not like God's garden. Another says, you walk too often at night. Another says, nothing but does not look away. You ask for proof. They say proof is in the testimony. You ask for mercy. They say mercy is for the repentant. You say you are innocent, and they say, all witches claim innocence. You sleep that night in a cell, dirt floor, thin blanket, no fire. There is another prisoner beside you, but she does not speak, only hums, a lullaby maybe, or a curse. At this point, what's the difference? You close your eyes and dream of water, not fire, not rope. Water, you are floating in it, cool, clean, unmarked. When you wake, you are still cold, and the humming has stopped. They bring you back the next day. This time, the crowd is larger. Word spreads fast when blood is expected. The girl returns. This time, she screams when she sees you. She burns my skin with her eyes. You are not even looking at her. The younger magistrate slams his fist on the table. Enough games. Do you serve Satan? You do not answer, not because you don't know the truth, but because you do. No one here wants it. Another witness steps forward. A woman who owes you coin. She says she saw you twist a chicken's neck without touching it. Another says their child fell ill after eating your bread. Another says your cat watches them. Another says your eyes are too dark. They ask you again, will you confess? You ask, will you listen? They do not answer by the end of the week. Your name is written in red ink. A verdict is spoken, guilty. You wonder if they rehearsed it, if it tastes bitter in their mouths, or if it tastes like justice. They do not look you in the eye, except for the girl. She looks at you the whole time and smiles. You are allowed one visit. Your sister comes. She touches your hand like it's already ash. I know you didn't do it. You nod. But that won't matter, will it? You shake your head, she cries. You don't. You already did, yesterday, and the day before that. And the moment you heard your name spoken with certainty instead of love. Outside, you hear the hammering of wood. They are building the gallows. A magistrate visits you one last time. He says, if you confess, the rope may spare you. You may live, you ask. As what? He pauses. You ask again. If I live, who would I be? A liar, a witch, a curse wrapped in flesh, or just another name people spit on when they're bored? He does not respond. He leaves you alone with your thoughts, but they are not quiet anymore. They scream, and still you do not confess, not because you are brave, but because, in the end, it is the only thing that still belongs to you. They stop feeding you words. That's how you know your sentence is final. They still bring you food. A bowl of thin stew, a crust of bread, so hard it cracks if you press your thumb to it. Water that tastes like dust. But they do not speak to you. Not the guards, not the preacher, not even the rat that visits each night, brushing its tail against your ankle like a forgotten prayer. Silence settles inside the cell like fog, thick, cold, familiar. You try to remember how many days you've been here, but the candle you were allowed on the first night has long burned out, and the window is too narrow to catch more than a hint of light, only enough to tell you when it's not dark. You count by breath now, by memory, by the soft scrape of your own fingernails against stone. You draw lines in the dirt, one for each visit, one for each dream. They are the only marks you are allowed to leave behind. You hear screams, sometimes from other cells, from the courtyard. One voice, a child shouted for her mother for an hour, then nothing. Another voice, an old man sang a hymn out of tune. It ended mid-word. You tell yourself these are echoes of a past you weren't part of, not omens of your own future. But you don't believe yourself. At night, your skin itches. You scratch until it bleeds. You ask if this is the devil's work. Then you laugh, softly, because that's what they want to hear. The idea that your flesh betrays you, that your soul is rotting from the inside, but it's just dirt and cold and neglect. That's all, isn't it? They let you see a minister on the seventh day. He sits on the other side of the bars, hands folded, eyes soft like fruit, gone overripe. Confession cleanses, he says, gently. Even if what you say is not true, in the body truth in the soul may still be found. You ask, then what is truth? He sighs, like a man who has heard too many clever questions from dying lips. You are not being asked to lie, he says, only to humble yourself, submit, ask forgiveness. You shake your head. I can't. Ask forgiveness for a thing I never did. Then you will meet judgment in the next world. You smile, a dry, cracked thing. Better there than here. He leaves you with a Bible. You do not open it, not because you don't believe, but because you know the pages have been twisted, folded, used like blades, and you're tired of bleeding. You remember your father's voice, not his FaceTime has taken that, but his voice. He once told you, a man's name is all he has when his hands are empty. Your hands are empty now, but your name is still yours, and they cannot take it unless you give it away. Another week, you are called to a smaller chamber. This one has no crowd, only a man and a quill. He asks you one question. Do you still claim innocence? You answer with silence, not defiance, not pride, only silence. He writes it down. You watch the words form in ink. Refuses to confess, unrepentant, likely given over fully. That's what it says. Likely, as if that's enough to hang someone, as if maybe is proof enough. Back in your cell, you find a feather near the door, black, dot, slick, a crow's. Maybe. You remember the story they told, the one where you sent a crow to torment a girl. You hold the feather in your fingers. You think, this is the only magic I have left. So you tuck it into the collar of your shirt, not as charm, not as defiance, as remembrance. You will die for this lie, so you might as well carry it to the end. The next day, you speak not to anyone, just aloud. You say your own name, not to hear it, to remember it. Then you begin to say other names, people you once loved, people you once hated, people who smiled when they saw you, and people who looked away. You name the river you swam in as a child. You name the shape of the moon during winter. You name the way mint smells when crushed in your palm. You name the girl who accused you. You name the woman who testified falsely. You name the man who didn't look away. You name yourself again and again and again, until the name doesn't sound like anything anymore. They come again to guards, and a man in fine black robes. You recognize him. He writes the official records. He doesn't ask you questions this time. He reads, as of this day, you are found guilty in full. You are sentenced to execution by hanging, to be carried out publicly, that the devil's work may be ended, that righteousness may be restored. He pauses, then looks at you. This is your last chance. Confess, and we may yet delay the sentence. You look him in the eye and ask, would that make you feel better? He stares at you for a long time, longer than anyone else ever did, and says, no, then leaves. That night, the humming returns. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if it's coming from the walls, or the wind, or your own throat. but it comforts you, because even madness is something, and something is better than the hole they want to carve in you. You write your name in the dirt one last time, then erase it, not because you're ashamed, but because you know they will try to rewrite it anyway, and you'd rather it be gone than changed. They wake you before dawn, not with words, just the sound of boots, a scraping key, the hollow creak of wood groaning under the weight of finality. You are already standing. You've been awake for hours, or days, or years. Time means nothing now. Not when your breath fogs in the morning air and your hands are tied behind your back like a gift no one wants. The rope burns a little dot. It isn't cruel, just indifferent. Rough, like the world has always been. It does not hate you, it just needs something to hold, and you are what it's been given. Outside, the cold is sharp, clear, almost honest. You feel the world again, the dampness of the dirt under your boots, the bite of winter on your face. The scent of smoke from breakfast fires, already burning in the homes of people who will live to eat. You hear a crow, just one. You wonder if it's the same. The gallows are simple, a frame of wood, a platform, a beam above, nothing, ceremonial, nothing, dramatic, just a place to end. The crowd gathers slowly. Faces blur into one mass. Some are curious, others are grim. A few weep, most do not. You don't search for anyone familiar. If they came to see you, it's already too late. If they stayed away, you understand. You're led up the steps. Each one sounds louder than the last. The noose hangs ahead, like a question with no answer. You don't look at it yet. Instead, you watch the sky pale blue. No clouds, a clean day, a day that deserves better. Then you, a minister, reads scripture. His voice is flat, practiced. He offers you a chance to speak. A final confession for your soul, for peace. You say nothing. He nods. He was prepared for that. They always are. Then the rope, it smells of oil and wood smoke. The man who places it around your neck avoids your eyes, not out of shame, out of routine. You are one of many, not the first, not the last. Your knees tremble, not from fear, from gravity, from time. You wonder what part of you they'll remember. Will they speak of your silence? Will they say you stared straight ahead? Will they say you wept? You don't, but they might say you did. Anyway, stories are slippery, especially when you can no longer correct them. The world slows. You hear every heartbeat, yours, the crowd's, the minister's, the man with the lever. You think of your name one last time. You say it in your head. You say it in full. You say it like a prayer. Then wood, a drop, a crack, a breath, and then no breath. The world does not stop. Children cry, birds scatter. The minister closes his Bible. The crowd disperses, and your body swings, weightless, as if finally free of all the names they gave you. No bell is rung, no monument raised, a shallow grave, a note in a ledger, a whisper passed between mothers when the wind howls just right. She didn't scream, they say. He never begged. They were too calm. That's how you know they were guilty. But you weren't. And that will never matter. You never confessed. Not because you believed it would save your soul, but because it was the only thing left you owned, the only truth they couldn't take from your hands. And so you swing, still silent, true. You do not expect there to be anything after, and yet there is something. Not light, not found, not fire or trumpets or wings, just a pause, a moment suspended between the world that condemned you and something else. A stillness so vast it doesn't feel like a place, but like the memory of one. It's quiet, not like the silence of your cell. Not like the hush of a fearful crowd. This is a silence that listens back. You feel weightless. No, you feel unmoored, as if your name has slipped off your bones and is floating somewhere behind you, as if your breath continues, but not in lungs. It's strange, gentle, like sinking into cold water that doesn't resist you. You wonder, is this death? And something somewhere answers, no, not yet. There is no body, not in the way you remember it. You have shape, but not form, limbs, but not flesh, emotion, but no face to show it. You are the idea of yourself, hovering on the edge of unmac. It's terrifying and peaceful, and not yours to control. You begin to remember things, not memories, but feelings. The taste of laughter shared with a friend before their face twisted with suspicion. The sound of your mother's voice calling you in for supper. The ache in your chest when you were first accused, not pain, not betrayal, just the shift. When the world tilted and you could never go back to before. You remember the girl who screamed your name in court, Anne, but now her face is blurry, smudged like wet ink. You try to hold on to it, not out of anger, out of need, proof, clarity, but it slips through, like everything does here, and then you hear something not with ears, but with your whole being, a hum, low, melancholic, endless. It sounds like the river in spring, like the wind before a storm, like a voice you almost recognize. It asks nothing, it just is. And somehow, you know it has always been there, waiting. You begin to fall, or float, or move. There is no up, no down, only the memory of direction. Light flickers around you, not light. Exactly, just awareness. Impressions, but isn't. You hear whispers, thousands, no dash millions, not words, stories, stories like yours, names, unspoken prayers, regrets. One voice breaks through, clear, female, old. We remember you. You turn toward it. There is no face, only the sense of one. We remember all who died silent. You try to speak. You don't have a mouth, but you try anyway. What comes out is a thought. What was the point? And the voice says that they didn't get everything. You don't know who they are anymore. You don't remember the rope, the gallows, the wind, your hands tied behind your back. That's all fading. What's left is the moment, not of your death, but of your choice. You are not in heaven or hell or a vision of either. You're somewhere in between, a memory, a truth, a question hanging in the air. And the voice, the one that isn't quite yours, says, some truths live longer than breath. You ask, what now? Silence answers, not cruelly, but finally, you fall again. Only this time, you feel warmth, like fingers laced with yours. you don't know if they're yours. But it doesn't matter. You're not alone. And for the first time in what feels like eternity, you rest. Time now has no direction. It bends, warps, pauses, forgets. You are not moving forward or backward. You are not returning. You are not waiting. You are persisting. Somewhere, a girl wakes screaming. She doesn't know your name, but she dreams of ropes, of a crowd, of a still figure whose eyes never closed. Somewhere, a man forgets why he feels ashamed when he walks past the old oak tree near the center of town. Somewhere, a page in a history book lies footnoted, with a name followed by executed for witchcraft, posthumously exonerated. Somewhere, a museum sells charms and dolls where they burned people alive. You are not in those places, but something of you is. Your name is spoken again, softly, not in fear, but in reverence, by a girl who reads your trial transcript under a flickering lamp, by a poet who whispers your words into verses of defiance, by a teacher who says they were innocent and no one listened. You are spoken back into breath, but not back into flesh. They study the trials now. They analyze the hysteria, the power, the fear. They map the patterns like constellations. But none of them really see you. They see your silence, your final stance. They turn it into lesson, symbol, metaphor, but not person, never person. Still, you remain not for them, but because the truth does not rot in the ground. You see others, not with eyes, but with knowing, those who also died, not just in Salem, but everywhere, the word which was used like a weapon. Everywhere a lie was allowed to tighten the rope. Some of them are still falling. Some of them never had the chance to speak. Some, like you, refused, not to protect power, but to protect what little truth was left inside them, even if no one would believe it, especially then. A child once carved your initials into the base of a tree. No one noticed. Years later, a woman traces them with her finger. She doesn't know who you were, but she feels something like mourning, something like fire. A crow lands on a stone in a forgotten clearing. No name, no epitaph, just a memory in the shape of silence. It, 'cause once, then flies. Centuries later, someone writes your name again, this time in ink, this time without accusation, this time as a question, what would you die for? And still, your story changes. Sometimes they make you a martyr, sometimes a fool, sometimes a warning. They twist the ending, they soften the verdict, but they always return to your silence, to the moment you said nothing, and everything you didn't die for, God, or for vengeance, or for pride. You died because you were asked to become something false, and you refused. That refusal echoes. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't haunt, it simply remains. The quiet fire. Let me ask you something. Not about witches, not about trials, not about the dead, about you. If the world turned on you, if it demanded a confession for something you never did, if it offered you life in exchange for a lie, would you take it? Would you sign your name on something that wasn't yours, just to breathe another day? Most would not, because they're cowards. but because they want to live, because they believe life is the most important thing to protect. And often it is. But sometimes, rarely, there are moments where truth is all a person has left. No family, no home, no allies. Just one small, quiet, stubborn truth inside them. And in those moments, that truth is worth more than breath. The one you followed through. This story had no power, no defense, no mercy, only the refusal to become what they were told to be. That's what killed them. Not magic, not fire, not even rope, but a system that feared silence more than screaming, conviction more than confession. They say history repeats, but it doesn't. It evolves, it adapts, it learns how to hide itself better, not in stocks and gallows, but in policies, in headlines, in jokes passed at the dinner table, and in silence, again this time from those who should speak. You didn't swing from the gallows, but you watched, you chose, you judged. We all do. That's what stories like this are for. Not to mourn the past, but to ask ourselves, what would I have done? What would I still do? The trials ended, but the need for courage never does so. If you carry anything from this, let it not be the fear. Let it not be the rope. Let it be the moment one person stood, said nothing, and refused to let the lie win. That moment wasn't loud. It wasn't heroic. It wasn't even seen, but it mattered. It still does.